Who in your family is diagnosed or was diagnosed with dementia?
My nan had dementia.
At what age was she diagnosed?
So she was officially diagnosed when she was 80, but we think that she had it a few years before. She was in a slightly, I say, unusual position in the sense that she was blind. So we accounted a lot of the things that I suppose were her initial signs for dementia as her getting old, and with her being blind, she was just making mistakes. But I suppose now, retrospectively, when we look back at it, we realise that it was actually probably early onset dementia. So she lived by herself for 37 years. So her husband died when she was 47, and she brought up 6 kids. She lived in the same house her whole life, so she knew the layout, she had a place for everything, and her eyesight gradually got worse to the point where we never really spoke about it, but she, you could tell that she was completely blind. So we always attributed it to that, and we didn't think it was anything else. And it wasn't until my mum got a phone call from one of the neighbours one day, and the police were at my nan's house, and she'd been found spotted, stood at the window, with blood coming down her face. So they'd called the police and an ambulance and stuff, and let my mum know. And it turns out in the end that she'd gone upstairs, forgotten that she had stairs, and then because she was blind, couldn't see the stairs and then fell down them. And that's sort of what led to the tests and the eventual diagnosis.
Were there any changes in her behaviour or personality that you noticed?
Gradually, yeah. She was a very sort of proud woman. She was very, my mum described as always being very ladylike. She was always very polite. She was brought up in what I picture as quite a strict Catholic upbringing. She went to church every week, did the rosary every day. So I never heard a bad word pass her mouth. But then when later on, when she was in a home, I'd hear her swearing every now and then, not constantly, but I just don't remember getting taken back, sort of thinking, that's come out of my nan's mouth. And there was an incident in home. Sometimes with dementia, people can get aggressive because they're not sure what's going on. Luckily, she only had one real moment of that, which was in the home when because she was blind, she didn't like loud noise, because she liked to sort of hear what was going on, and her mum was being particularly loud, so she picked up her bowl and threw it at his head. So that was, I suppose, they were the main sort of changes in her behaviour in that sense, in her personality.
When did she go into a home? After?
Initially, they set up care for her at her house. My mum and my aunties were reluctant to take her out of the house because she'd been there forever. So they had carers come in and things, but they found it really difficult to set up. There wasn't much information on it, so they had to do lots of digging and things. And then they found that the level of care in the end wasn't what they wanted, and they tried to do it as well. So every day my mum would work all day and then go from work to my nan's house and help do cleaning and cook for her and things. But I think it must have been a couple of years after she was diagnosed where she went into a home, and she went into not a dementia home because they're notorious for being a bit louder, and that obviously she didn't deal well with that. She went in just to a more care home kind of place, which was a bit quieter for her.
Yeah. Because you said there wasn't a lot of information, so I'm guessing that one of my questions was, did you go, or did your mum take your nan to any dementia-related groups, or did your mum go?
No, they didn't go to any groups. I think because it had already, because we'd missed that initial build up to it, I suppose they didn't have the chance. My nan, it had already sort of set in too much to be worthwhile to take my nan to, and I think my mum was just sort of so busy trying to look after her, she wouldn't have even thought of going to anything like
that. Yeah. Did your relationship change with your nan after the dementia was diagnosed, or after you noticed?
I suppose it did. in the sense that when she was in her house, like I'd go and visit her the same way I normally would. I'd go and see her quite a bit because she didn't live too far away. But I think when she went into the home and she started to deteriorate more, I was quite scared to go and see her. I didn't want that moment to happen where you go and see her and she doesn't know who you are. So yeah, I suppose when she first went into the home, I put it off for a while, and even though it was literally at the back of where I worked, I always found a reason to not go, until sort of my mum kicked me up the arse a little bit and sort of like go and see her after you finish work, and my mum met me there as well. So I went a lot more regularly after that first, getting over that sort of first hurdle, I suppose. And you get used to it. You get used to that it is a different relationship, and there is times where you go and she doesn't have a clue who you are. She was happy that I was there, but she didn't know who I was. So yeah, I suppose it changed in some ways, and I suppose in how my expectations of my relationship with her changed, but our interaction, she was sort of, you could still chat to her the way I would chat to her, but I was chatting to her almost as a stranger rather than as family.
Yeah. So anything you want to add or mention about your personal experience?
One thing that I think I saw with my nan, which made a big difference, and I've read about since, so I've looked into it a lot since, and I've sort of done like runs to try and raise money for it and things. Music plays a big part in the memory, I suppose. When it was progressed through my nan quite a lot, and it sort of worked its way backwards, so she would forget who the great grandchildren were, and then she'd forget who her grandchildren were, and then my mum, and then you'd get to a point where the only people that she sort of remembers are her mum and dad, and she's not aware that they're dead.
Yeah.
But one thing that she always had throughout all of it was she always, because she was blind and she couldn't watch TV, she listened to radio or music or musicals quite a lot. So we used to put musicals on the TV, and she would remember every word to every song, no matter how so bad she got. She always remembered that, and I thought it was really interesting the impact music has on their memory. It shows that it's still there. I suppose it's just the way they access it that makes the difference.
Yeah.
Okay.